Good evening, friend.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
All right. Not bad. um
There we go.
so we could talk about one of a couple of things.
Okay.
Um I think um I just put up a tutorial about that is quite complicated about how to read a Linux drive in Windows that involves installing compiling your own Linux kernel. So
Jeez.
yes, some work. Uh, or we could talk about um, old video games because I have a whole bunch of cool pictures from the Retro Game Festival, and I just discovered a new way for kids to. I don't know a ton about it because I just bought it, but I just discovered a new tool for kids to learn to program video games called Pico 8. Have you heard of it?
No.
I think it may have been around, but I just heard of it. It is a like a new. I know it's not new, but I guess new to me piece of software that people use and to kind of create their own Nintendo games or
Okay.
whatever, Nintendo style games. But I could start by showing you all of the old stuff that I saw last weekend. I don't know. What do you think? What's more practical? Or we could talk about. Well, I don't feel like I know enough to talk about it, but there's a lot of issues right now with the new AMD chips not really living up to expectations.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I kind of feel like I don't have enough to be able to backstop you on it either.
yeah, yeah. We have the new Raspberry Pi Pico, um, which I have, but we haven't really figured out how to do anything special with it yet because I haven't caught up with the software. Um, so, what about old video game console?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
I'll show you all of my cool stuff from the Retro Game Festival, and then we can talk about how a person could make a retro game themselves.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually a good conversation because we just did a game jam at Amrock yesterday.
Oh, cool. What do you use for the game jam?
So, from what I can tell, they didn't have any rules on what could be used because one kid um, developed a rhythm game on a graphing calculator.
Hmm.
So, so it didn't appear that there were any like hard and fast rules on technology. But there was an organization that was a sponsor of it called Hack Club. I noticed that a number of the kids used the Hack Club web based software, which was pretty cool. And yeah, the displays all looked about the same. Code on the left, little screen on the right. Um, but yeah, that was kind of a cool piece of tech too.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah, so they run these events all over. It was kind of cool.
Great.
But yeah, that sounds good. All right, and I went through and cleared, somehow seemed to have cleared a bunch of space on the storage drive, which makes me uncomfortable because I don't remember doing that. It's always weird when, 1 week you're struggling to find 50 gig for the show, and then the next week there's almost 500 gig available on your drive. Well, that's terrifying. But whatever. All right. Kim Dotcom is the fourth one. Since it's not.
Oh, our good buddy Kim Dotcom.
That's the fourth topic since it's not, as of recording, for those of you watching live, that one's not available yet. So we can talk about that, the history, it's over 12 years. That's it's a fun legal thing. All right. I think I have everybody in place and ready. If you're good, I'm good.
Yeah.
This week, Anova is changing its charge, Fortnite is back on iPhone, Cox is headed to the Supreme Court, and Kim Dotcom is headed to the United States. It is Sunday, August 18th, 2024, and this is episode 669 of F5 Live, refreshing technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are, and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, X, or Instagram, through our live streaming services, Twitch, Kick, Rumble, LinkedIn, or YouTube, where you can join the community and get ad-free episodes of F5 Live at Piltch Point, plus content as it's edited, and a lot of unique content as well, or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, and of course you'll find all of the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. I want to start by apologizing for being off for the last couple of weeks. My day job has had a project that is awful with a client that is somehow even worse, and I have been working 100 hours a week. So that is thankfully behind us. Hopefully it will stay that way, and we are now back to normal. So with that, Avram, how have you been the last couple of weeks?
Okay. Not bad. Had a chance to do a couple of interesting things, so which we'll talk a little bit more about one of them later. Went to the annual Retro Gaming Expo here with my son. We saw a lot of really great stuff, very inspiring. not just to see what people have done in the past, but what people are doing in the present and future to, keep the spirit of some of the great retro games alive. Besides, like creating homebrew games and homebrew systems and all kinds of things like that, which was really super cool. And then yesterday we went to the Museum of the Moving Image here in New York, and we saw 2001: A Space Odyssey on the big screen,
Nice.
and they had, and to his credit, he sat through the whole thing and actually enjoyed it. Because a lot of people find that movie a little slow. Not I, but and they had like a video game developer lab there, which was really cool. That you could go in and learn how to like make video games, and they had like an exhibit of all the Muppets, and you could make your own little Muppet shows and stuff, and it was
Cool.
fun. So yeah,
That sounds super cool. Actually, I'm a little
yeah,
disappointed
yeah.
that I
It
didn't
was
get to go. That's awesome.
a huge like Jim Henson exhibit with all the Jim Henson stuff, even going back to like when he was doing stuff in the 50s in black and white or whatever. And then they had like this museum. They have some really neat things. They have like props from famous movies there, and they have like special exhibits, and they had like a bunch of movie toys, which was
Okay.
wild because they had this whole display of like Star Wars action figures and Star Trek action figures that you could see. They had actual arcade games arcade machines you could play, although not
Nice.
that many of them. And so it was, it was kind of neat. We had a good time. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can, you know, that we got to see. So that's neat.
So interestingly, Jim Henson has been his name has been in the news a lot lately. For anybody in the chat, if you're interested in answering this is for you too, Avram. Do you know
Yeah,
what the last thing that Jim Henson directed was before he died?
dinosaurs. I know he's working on that show, Dinosaurs.
Yeah. Muppet Vision
But
4D at MGM
oh
Studios.
yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry. I should have said. I should have said. I saw that when I was there. They said that was the last thing that he did,
Yep.
and I've seen it. I've seen it, and
Yeah,
it's really good. I've seen
that
it.
was the last thing he personally directed before he died, and it's been in the news because they just announced a whole big new land for Monsters Inc. coming to. I will always call it MGM Studios in my head, but Disney's Hollywood Studios in Orlando, and there's fear that it's going to replace Muppets 4D, which
Oh, I
uh,
hope not.
which is possible, but there's a space right behind it that is open, huge space that they kind of think, others think that that's where it's going to go. They haven't said where it's going to go yet, which is a little unnerving. And the fact that at Magic Kingdom, Tom Sawyer's Island, and the Rivers of the Americas are going away in favor of the new Cars Land? Is that what's going in there? D3 was recent and lots of stuff happened. But I think it's Cars that's going in there. And so them knocking out history is not out of the question, considering they are already doing it with Tom Sawyer Island and the River of the Americas. So I hope not. Muppets 4D is cool. It's got that historic factor that it's the last thing that Jim Henson directed, but they are not afraid to blow stuff out right now. So there is no telling.
Uh, I really enjoyed that show, and I've been saying when I take my kids to Disney one of these days, that would be something I really want them to see.
Hmm.
So that 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 would not be nice if they got rid of that.
Yeah, wouldn't be happy. But in happy news, talking about arcade machines, we just got the anniversary edition of the Godzilla pinball machine from Stern at Forge. What a wild machine that is.
Oh, hey, I've used it. That's the one with the video screen, right? And it shows you like all kind of classic Godzilla monsters and things like that. They had that at
the building
Game
in the
On.
back. The building in the back that moves.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's an incredible machine. Incredible machine. Incredible technically, even if you don't like Godzilla. But if you like Godzilla, then it's like the ultimate pinball machine for sure.
Yeah. We love it. It has become one of our favorite machines in the shop. It is such a cool machine. And we had a small technical issue. We got a ball stuck on Godzilla, Mecha Godzilla's shoulder. And we're like, oh, I don't want to open the machine. The glass is so heavy. And I realized it was up against the wall, and I could just go get... We have this... You know when you go to like a clothing place, and there's those tags, and they've got the little magnetic thing they stick it into, and the tag comes off?
Yeah.
We have one at Amrock from when we were across the hall, and it's just like this ridiculously super powerful neodymium magnet in there. So I went and I grabbed it, and I just put it against the wall, and I was able to flip the ball out because the balls are very magnetic, because Stern pinball machines have all these magnets under the floor that are able to control the game a little bit in standard mode. They're super cool. If you guys are at all interested in pinball machines, Stern has been a good friend of the show for a very long time. We try to talk to them at CES every year, but this machine, I was in love with the Stranger Things machine. I have one of those at the shop too. But this one, I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really beyond what you would expect from a pinball machine. You know.
Yes.
That is a great machine. There's a place out here on Long Island that I told you about, but I will say that they deserve some business. So if anyone who lives in the Long Island area of the United States and is listening to this, there is a place called Game On that is a retro arcade, and they have two of them. Well, I can't speak for the one that's in Riverhead. They have one that is in the Smithtown Mall or Smith Haven Mall, and they have a whole bunch of they're mostly retro games. They're retro arcade games, some retro consoles, but they have the Godzilla. They also have some new, you call it brand new, but new Stern pinball machines, and they have that one. And you pay $15 to get in, and then you can stay as long as you want and play as much stuff as you want without paying any more. So,
yeah. And if you're in Tampa, the Forge works the same way. It's $5 an hour. You can play anything in that time. And if you're in Las Vegas, there's the Pinball Museum, which Stern has a big presence in as well. Almost certainly they have this machine because it's truly one of the coolest pinball machines I've ever played. And one of the things I like about Stern is that they have the button on the front. If you don't have dexterity or whatever to be able to pull the plunger back, you can hit the button on the front, and it will shoot the pinball for you, which is really cool. So we got some young kids that come in. They can't necessarily pull that spring plunger back, but they can hit the big button in the front. I love that. Anyway, big fan of Stern. Really big fan of this machine. Super cool. This won't be the only kind of retro game topic we will talk about tonight. Piltch Point will be talking about that a little bit, but we've got some other tech news to get to tonight, so let's get to that now. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So an announcement was made this week by a company called Anova. A lot of people know this company because of their sous vide cookers, connected devices that allow you to cook sous vide. They've got a couple of other devices as well, but the sous vide cookers are the thing that they're best known for. The way the product works is you've got a device, you can put it in the water. There's a couple buttons on the front. You can do all the settings on the device, but there's a companion app that goes along with it. It's got recipes in it. You have the ability to start and stop the cooker remotely. You have the ability to keep track of the temperature of the water, how long it's been running, all of that while not sitting next to the device. Really nice, so much so that I have one personally that I use as frequently as I can because I love sous vide. But they made an announcement this week, and I'm not just talking about it because it affects me personally, but the companion app, if you create your account starting, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday of this coming week, you will not get it for free any longer. The companion app to control your device will cost $2 per month or $10 per year. Now, again, your devices have full capability. You can do everything. You can set it and timer and all of that all on the device. But the reason you get a connected device like this, the reason you pay the extra, is because you want the connectivity. Many of the devices have Bluetooth built in. So if you're close enough, you can theoretically connect to the device over Bluetooth. But they've also announced that feature is going away in September of next year. Essentially making it so you have to have it online to get the remote capabilities. And if it's online, you have to pay the $2 per month or $10 per year to be able to do that, essentially taking the smart features away from new customers unless they pay. Now, this is not the only company we have seen give a feature for free and then hide it behind a paywall after people have become familiar with it. This might be the first time we've seen it happen after a decade, which is what's happening here. This company and this app have been available for free to customers for a decade, and this week that won't be the case anymore. Now, if you've already got one, if you've already got the account, you will be grandfathered in. If you have not purchased one and you have been thinking about it, create the account today. Whether or not you have the device, go create the account right this second if you're listening live, before the fee goes into effect. But for me, this kind of almost bait and switch thing that we've started seeing annoys me, Avram, to no end. Either set me up front that this is how it's going to work, or don't do it, right? If it costs $2 a month from the beginning, that's one thing, but they've got 10 years of history in their business model working this way, and their excuse is that the back end expenses are so high to be able to support this. Which, as a software engineer, I can tell you they shouldn't be. Your architecture's wrong, but that's a whole different issue. I don't like this.
I mean, what wasn't there a story the other day that Logitech, someone from Logitech was talking about having a forever mouse
The
or
forever
something?
mouse.
Yeah, was that?
Yes,
I'm trying to remember. Was that something where you would be a mouse on subscription?
basically, yes.
But then but then they backed away and said it was just an idea. I mean, because companies want subscription revenue. They all want it. That's the revenue people want the most. They want subscription revenue. Period. Recurring revenue from you.
Yeah. And if they had set themselves up this way, that's one thing. If they made this as a thing for new devices, right? Leave the current devices the way they are, or there are certain features that are behind the paywall, but you can still control your device. The reason why you bought the connected device, that's free, but the recipes and stuff are on a subscription, or some recipes are free and some are paid. Okay, I can get behind that. But hiding core functionality behind a new paywall is crazy. Now, customers are not happy with this. Right this second, there are 183 comments on a blog post, which is something. One of which, nobody said this is a great idea, by the way. I've been through all of them. I did not see any positive sentiment. I'm going to read you one comment because of what you just said. It opens with, "Did you hire the Logitech lady with her forever mouse?"
Yeah. I mean, I don't even understand. I just still don't understand the forever mouse because it's not. And by the way, I'm using a Logitech mouse with the software and I love it. But like, is the problem with your mouse that you need more and more software for it, or that you just need it to continue working? Because I mean, Logitech has a nice piece of software there in Logi Plus, but I mean, you don't need it to use most of the features of the mouse. So, like, I guess the question is, how integral is the software is getting new software to the product?
Right. Yeah, like, for a number of my Logitech products, other than the drivers, I don't want the software. I have a lot of Logitech products. I don't think this is one of them. No, that one's a Microsoft keyboard. But in the office, I have a really nice wireless Logitech keyboard. I've got a wired Logitech mouse, which I love. And they're always like, "Hey, do you want to install the Logitech gaming software?" No, I don't.
Right.
I'm okay. I have the controls for the programmable keys on the side, but that's the extent of it. I don't need software updates. I don't need a subscription service on a mouse for sure, because when it stops clicking, I'm just going to get another one, because you and I are hard on hardware. We use it a lot, right? And by the time I'm done, the mouse I'm using is going to be obsolete, and I'm going to want something else.
I mean, mice,
I don't need to pay for it every month.
Mice can last really forever. I mean, mice and keyboards can last a really long time, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever had. I mean, when I used to have ball mice, then those would get messed up after a while.
Sure.
You try to clean it, but it just never be the same. Like,
that gunk will get back there to a place where you can't clean it anymore.
But since there have been sensor mice, optical mice, and that's just going back like 25 years or something. Like, it really hasn't been. I have not yet seen. I don't think I've ever had a mouse wear out on me. I don't know what happened to all my old mice, but something happened to them, and I just ended up getting newer ones after a while because I wanted a better one or whatever. But it was not. I don't think I ever broke a mouse.
I have killed mice. I use them to the point where my left button will start double clicking. It's happened to, I've had a Razer mouse do it, I've had a Logitech mouse do it, I've had a Microsoft mouse do it. It doesn't seem to matter who it is.
How many years did you own the mouse before it happened?
A lot. Usually several.
Right. I mean, at a certain point, it's like okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I got my years. Like if it did break after like, I don't know, 5 years plus, then I wouldn't be too upset about it. If it broke after like a year, I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, we'd be having words. I'd be
fair,
writing an editorial if I had one of these expensive mice go out after a year.
But to be fair, like I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky. I really haven't had a lot of like major hardware just break on me, and that includes both peripherals and internal hardware. I haven't really had a lot of instances where something broke, or if something broke, it was my fault. You
Sure.
know, like I had a keyboard I spilled soda on or something, but like just broke from like regular use. I really haven't had a lot of that.
So, mouse has always been my primary problem. And then I had one keyboard that the Windows key would type itself just out of nowhere, which made me really sad because it was an expensive keyboard, but I'd had it a very long time. Now, in your case, I'm not at all surprised that you've never broken a mouse, considering how many articles you've written on how to avoid using the mouse.
Well, but I haven't really broken a keyboard either, right? Well, maybe through spilling on it or something, but not through use, right?
Yeah. Mouse has always been my problem. They're guaranteed a certain number of clicks, and I've done the math on it. For me, it's about 3 or 4 years.
And like monitors have lasted me forever. Like, it's been a very rare occasion. I can't even remember a time when I had a monitor that stopped working.
This one doesn't even have HDMI on it, and this one works fine.
I mean, those things last. They last forever. I mean, and that's good. I mean, I guess this is bad news. But I guess what you're getting to is this is bad news for hardware companies because they would like your stuff to break more often, or something, so you'd buy more stuff.
Right. And, that's a little bit the case here, right? So you go on Amazon, you buy one of these things for $49, $69, whatever, and you're using resources. They have a web server, you're connecting, there's authentication, there's, yes, there are costs associated. It shouldn't be that much in reality. This is what I do. It should not be that much. If they're at a point where the back-end services are costing them so much that they're going to have to start charging you $2 a month to support it, they're architected wrong. That's a whole different issue. But I think
you don't know what they really mean by that.
Right. I think it's a smoke screen. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that the devices last too long.
Right. They need a revenue stream. Also, by back-end services, they don't just they don't just mean the actual server, but development of new services, of new updates to the software.
Possibly.
Which is
the thing that they're really blaming it on.
Right?
The thing that they're really blaming it on is the cost of developing new recipes. Which is kind of my point. If that's the case, if you're developing so many recipes, and I'll tell you, I almost never use them, that if it costs so much to develop new recipes, put that behind a paywall. I'm okay with that. I don't need your recipes. I know how to use a sous vide cooker. I just want to be able to manage my device. I want to be able to see the timer, make sure that the water is staying the right temperature, and that the heat has not made so much water dissipate that it's below the minimum line. That's all I need. Legitimately. I don't want anything past that. Some people do. Some people want the recipes. Great. Charge them for the recipes. I'm okay with that. But the idea that I'm going to have to use the web, even though I have Bluetooth, because they're going to take that away next year. And they're complaining about their costs going up and needing to charge for it. Leave me with my Bluetooth capability and charge me for the things that actually cost you something that matters. There is a compromise here, but the almost 200 people that just in the last, when was this published? The 15th. So in 2.5 days, they have received almost 200 comments, and everybody saying this is the last one of your products I'll purchase. There are people who are looking at the new precision oven, which is a $700 connected oven. They're like, yeah, I'm definitely out now, because now I can't trust how you're going to treat me on any of my devices. Am I going to lose features like I'm losing on my sous vide cooker? I don't know. So it's definitely a bad combination of announcements all together. I think it's going to harm the company. I would not be surprised if we see some sort of a backtrack. Anova, if you're listening, there is a compromise you can make to keep these people on your side. This move here, though, I think is a mistake, and I think is a short-sighted one that's going to end up costing you in the long run, and will likely end up being a huge mistake. So, if if you want help figuring out your back end, let me know. But definitely, this is going to end up being a mistake for them, I think. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, Avram, we started out talking about retro gaming, and we're going to talk about it some more, right?
Why not? What else is there in life? So it's amazing. My son is 12 years old, and he is much more interested in retro games than he is in like the latest games. So he watches videos all the time about old games and old consoles and stuff, and he tries to quiz me on it. It's like, do you know what the first console was to have, to have 3D? Or do you know what the first console was to have, the first game where Yoshi talked, or the first, he's got just a ridiculous amount of trivia, right? So when there's an opportunity to go play old games in their original format, he gets real excited about it. So I wanted to show you some old game stuff, and then talk about ways that people can enjoy old games at home today. So first of all, let me share my screen. So I have some pictures from when we were at the Retro Game Festival here in New York last weekend. Here he is looking at the watch games, which he thought were really cool. They had an area where they have every major console like in historical order, starting with the Magnavox Odyssey, and they were all working, and you could play on them. Although the Game Watch wasn't quite working, but uh, so they had. So anyway, this was interesting though. This here is something called Tazbot. Have you heard of it?
No.
So this has been around, but I just learned about it. It is a tool that you can use. They have like a studio tool or whatever to automate gameplay on certain old consoles like a GameCube. So they like go and they program in like the joystick moves and the like the button presses or whatever, and then it just sort of, and then they have this sort of hack thing to put it on the hardware. So it basically it just plays itself through and wins and plays the perfect game. Um, I'm not sure exactly why people want this, but apparently it's quite popular. It's called Tazbot, and I think it's Taz stands for Tool Assisted. Um, what's it? Tool. I actually have the page up here. Is best assigned as a robot to. So the robot's just a mascot. The key thing is that that's just a mascot. It doesn't actually do the playing for you. What's key is that they have a little like cartridge thing that they put in here that kind of I think hacks the GameCube, and then they can program on here on a PC the moves for it to make. So anyway,
Really interesting.
could you see a use case? I put that into the category of that's really interesting. Do it because you can, not because you should. But I'm not sure like why you'd want to do that, because you could just probably watch a video of someone playing through the game. But I guess you could make one of these that's perfect, have it play through the game, record a video of it, and it would be a perfect playthrough because you can edit the moves or whatever. Obviously, this only works for games that are predictable. They said there's some way that it can work with randomness games, but it's hard for me to see how exactly that would work. So here's another really old console that we saw, the RCA Studio 2. A lot of the old consoles played some form of Pong. Uh, here's one that you probably own. Can you tell the game?
Not on my screen here.
Missile Command.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that now.
So this is a Magnavox Odyssey 2. I found this one actually wasn't working properly, but I found these joysticks interesting. So anyway, here's an Atari Lynx. Forgot all about this, that they had a portable game console, Atari. Well, that was the Lynx. This one here was a PSP, not too rare. Xbox 360, not too rare. Original Game Boy. They had a whole set of these like consoles with a TV built in, like these really. I think these were actually disc consoles or something. So I found that real interesting. Laser early CD consoles. Here's some more. You'll notice that at the Retro Festival, everything is a CRT, right?
Absolutely.
Because you got to play it on the original style. So this game, I forget what it's called, was one of the very first.
For a couple of reasons, not the least of which is if you don't play it on a CRT, there's actually input lag.
Yep. And it just doesn't look the same, right? So this machine here wasn't quite working right, but this is one of the very first arcade games. They had a bunch of arcade machines there. Computer Space, that's what it's called. Now, do you recognize this game?
I don't know.
So this is Space Ace. one
I
of
have to
two DVD.
I have to remind the audience that my preview screens in here are not huge.
Oh, okay. So this is Space Ace, which is from the same group that made Dragon's Lair. So it's another like
Yeah.
DVD game, which were I think really hard to play, but
Mm-hmm.
cool because they were like animated by Don Bluth Studios. Um, this is a Virtual Boy. You stick your head in and actually see it. Um,
Oh, the Virtual Boy. Headache and a headset.
yeah, a lot of people didn't like it. Uh, what else do we have here? N64 with playing Banjo Kazooie, which everybody loves. Now, this I found interesting. This is called the Game Tank, and it is a homebrew console that I'm not sure if you can build it yourself. They were selling them there for like $250 each, and they have their own set of games and cartridges. They had a bunch of homebrew Atari games and homebrew Nintendo games there too. But I thought it was kind of great, wild that they have like a whole console that's entirely homebrewed, or that is like an old style console, but they still you can see that these are like the controller looks 3D printed.
Yeah.
Um,
Three,
now
three
they
and a
have
half megahertz processor, my friend. Blazing fast.
yes, yes. So this is apparently some anniversary of the Dreamcast. So they had a whole bunch of Dreamcast, a whole floor of Dreamcast stuff, and I found it really interesting all the weird peripherals that were made for the Dreamcast. So there was a game for the Dreamcast where you had a fishing rod, and this is your reel, and you reel up the fish. I thought that was pretty cool. They had like gun games for the uh, for the game Dreamcast. It was pretty cool. I was not a big uh, Dreamcast user, so I didn't know about all this stuff. Um, if you remember, want to go really back, this was like an old educational system called the Socrates, and there was a Sega Pods thing um, that I guess there was a way of playing by hitting pods. Um, these are a collection of all the old football games. Do you remember these, Scott? The ones where your football was a little red light.
Yep.
I had a
Everything was just
handheld one of
dashes.
these. Yes, I had a handheld one of these. Um, so Merlin, all these old like handheld games. Um, so this here was another headset, the Stuntmaster. It was for I forget what console it was for. I think it worked with a Genesis. Um, so I'd never seen that. But that was pretty neat. This was one of my absolutely favorite things in the exhibit. Have you ever gotten to play with a Commodore PET?
I have seen one. I have not played with one.
So, PET was one of the first personal computers that people could buy. There were a few different models. I think the first one came out in like 77 or something. This, I think, was one of the later models in the 40032 because it had a fairly large screen where there were ones that had smaller ones. What I found really interesting here was this was a version of Space Invaders that they had on it. Um, and the little aliens would with the bomb that they drop on you looked like a dollar sign, which I guess was a way of just using an ASCII character. Um, so it was actually kind of fun. I sat there and played it till I got a new high score. Um, my son played it too. This I found absolutely fascinating. So this is a machine called a K Pro that is a very very old computer from I think the early 80s, and it ran its own. I don't think it was PC compatible. I think it ran its own operating system, and this game on it, which I'm not exactly sure what it was called. I guess I could zoom in and try and see what it was called. If it said here, I don't think. But this is interesting because it's a platformer game uh, that looks a lot like Donkey Kong or plays a lot like Donkey Kong. But every single thing on the screen is an ASCII character. There are no actual graphics. So, like the little bars in the platform are equal signs. Like you're, I think, an asterisk. Like everything here is one of the keyboard characters. There's not uh, an actual piece of graphics on in this game. Isn't that wild? Have you seen a game like that before?
Um, so I have made one.
Oh, okay.
Um, uh, like it was really popular on the graphing calculators, like the TI-83 and 85, because you only had
Hmm.
so much that you could do. You couldn't actually hit pixels, so you'd build everything using characters that you had access to. But yeah, it's a really great idea when you're trying not to have to build an entire graphics engine.
Yeah. This
Really
was
smart.
a this was some kind of computer called an Amstrad. They had a lot of computers that never came out in the U.S. I'm not sure if this did, but what I found really wild about it is that the tape drive is built into the keyboard, and it's all tapes um, for you to play. This is my favorite game at the whole retro festival every year. I'm
It's
one of these
interesting.
days.
Just uh, out of interest, the that computer, the Amstrad, came
Yeah.
from Alan Sugar, who is the host of the British Apprentice series.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's neat. So this machine here is one that I keep looking on eBay to see if I can get one for a good price because I actually would love to play this at home. This is just Atari Ultra Pong, but the controllers on it are just so nice, like the tightness of it. Um, it's really like it makes Pong like a lot of fun. So this was a machine that came out in like '77. It only plays Pong. It doesn't have cartridges, but it plays like 15 versions of Pong in bright colors. Um, so here's another sort of Atari Pong. This one has the paddles built into the console, which I don't think is as good as having them separate. Um, this here, my
interesting.
son found.
I have that little TV that it was hooked up to. I think I have that exact same
Yeah,
television at Forge right now, like that model. Wild.
yeah. Well, they have to. They had small TVs were a big hit at this event because I guess you don't want a heavy TV.
They're easier to
Um,
transport for sure.
right. So this was a Mario game called Mario Teaches Typing. So they had a few old PCs playing old PC games. So they actually, I think this is one of the only
I
cases where there
remember
was
this one.
a Nintendo game licensed to be on PC.
Yeah,
So that's
that
kind
was
of
in the early
interesting.
that was in the early days when they were doing licensing. They stopped doing it after the definitely not canon uh, Zelda games that that Panasonic or Toshiba had licensed and produced, and they were awful. They're like, all right, no more licensing. It kept them. It's the reason why we have until recently we didn't see any Nintendo characters in theme parks. We didn't see a whole lot of productions, movies, TV shows, because every time they'd license the characters, it would come out awful. I'm like, nope, we're done. But that was an
so
exception.
th-
Mario Teaches Typing was a lot of fun. I remember it.
So this was my favorite thing at these retro festivals. All the weird hardware you see, just the strange controllers. So this is my favorite strange controller thing that I saw there. I was actually looking up how much it costs to buy used one of these. I think it only works with one game. So this is a controller for a racing game on PS1. I think the racing game is called Dash or something. And the controller looks like it's supposed to be like radio control cars, like a slot car racing. So it's like a trigger here, and you steer by turning this tire, which has a really nice and tight feel to it.
It
Um,
looks
it's called
so you
yeah,
sent me this picture, right? Or a couple pictures the other
yeah.
day. And the first thing I thought, so you said, "Do you have one of these?" My first thought was that looks just like the controller for my RC car. And and then I
Right.
looked closer and I saw the cable coming out of it. I'm like, "Oh, nope. This is for a PlayStation." No, I don't have that.
Yeah, it's just like I think it was only for this one game, although who knows if you could use it for something else. It was called RC Go by Taito Hori, and is called the Hori Zero Tech RC controller. And it was made specifically for this game, RC Go. But I think you could theoretically use it for something else. But anyway, it's just wild
I
to me
mean,
how it worked because I
it's going back to that era, it's just interrupts going to the system. So my guess is they're standard inputs. You could probably play the game with a regular controller too.
yeah, but I think one of the things that I appreciate every time I go to a retro festival is it's the hardware that matters, right?
Yeah,
You could
it's the
play any of these
unique.
games on an emulator.
Yeah, exactly. It's the unique experience of having this custom controller that's designed for this game. And, you know, because can you play Dance Dance Revolution with a PlayStation controller? Yeah. Is it the same game? No.
Right. Exactly. And oops, sorry. So that's my where was I? So that's my point. Look at this. You can see it close up now. Um, so um, they also had things for Wii where you could do drawing. Um, this is interesting. This was, I think, for PS2 keyboard game where you have to hit the key, hit the keys in time to the music, and then
Is that
this
how wait, what was it? Is that 2DX?
what was what?
No, it
Well,
looked
this is I think a PS2.
yeah, but
I think
the
it's
game
two
the
PS2.
game looked a little bit like 2DX except it's an actual like proper piano. Interesting.
Yeah, so this is a peripheral they had in like their strange peripheral section. Um, oh, here's a picture of the Magnavox Odyssey, the first Magnavox Odyssey. Here's a Vectrex. I find this very interesting because this was a console that was just vector, these kind of weird vector graphics, and they sell for a lot of money. They had vendors there selling one of these in the box for $1,000,
Wow.
right? Um, so this here was they had consoles that never made it never came out in the U.S. I just thought this one was really interesting. This was a Japanese console called the TV Jack, the Video Mate TV Jack 5000. I guess was made by Bandai. Um, just really interesting, like look and cartridges. This is a system where the NES was built into a TV. Um, they had some things that were under glass, like this is a Color Game TV 15. This here is a Panasonic GameCube that also, I guess, plays discs. Um, this here it looks like a boombox, but it is some kind of game machine.
Yeah, because
Um,
it's definitely got a Sega logo on the front.
yeah, it's a Sega Iowa Mega CD. Um, so this is another one, PC Engine. These were virtual glasses for the Xbox. This is an old Atari computer. Sega Mega Jet. That was another weird one. This I
That
found interesting. They had like,
that boombox is
yeah,
going for like $4,000.
I guess that's why they had it under glass.
Indeed.
You can play it. Uh, this is some kind of card they put into an Amiga to make it work or something better. Oh, here's me playing the game. Uh, this was a very interesting gun game that it actually used a VCR. So I don't know if you use a gun to shoot at like a plane that was on it, but to play the game, you have to rewind the VCR, the VHS tape to the beginning and play. That's really bizarre. I don't even know. I don't know if you were actually shooting at it or not, or just leads you to believe that you were.
That's wild.
Apparently a very rare game. That's all I can say. So here's one. This is a game where you play by hitting the bongo drums.
Oh yeah. Is this Donkey Konga?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Donkey Konga. Yeah. So
we have a set of the Donkey Konga. We have a set of the Donkey Konga conga drums. And just like we were talking about with the Zero Tech controller,
yeah,
you can play Smash Brothers with the conga drums.
Yeah, you can try it, right?
Oh, I know people who are actually pretty good at playing Smash Brothers with the conga drums. It's a wild experience.
So that was my last weekend, and then this weekend I was at the Museum of Moving Image, where they have here in Queens, where they have a video game developer lab for kids, and they showed me something which maybe other folks have known about, but I haven't, which is a great game development thing for kids or anyone called Pico 8. It allows you to create, and they already have a whole bunch created 8-bit games. It's like a whole, you have to buy it. It's $15. So I bought it today. It kind of looks a little bit like, like you're on an old computer, and you can use it to program stuff, but they also have a library of games that other people have made. So if you type explore, they have a whole bunch of like games that you can search and download. We favorited a few. Like there's one someone created that's a perfect replica of it, Atari Adventure, although I don't know why you'd care for that. This one is supposed to be kind of similar to Maniac Mansion. This is these are all 8-bit, right? Linecraft, it's like Minecraft, but with like vector stuff. So there are all these like little games here that you can play on it, but you can also make your own. Someone made their own like Wolfenstein 3D thing with it. And then of course you can program your own stuff. And I mean, that's kind of the point of it. Right. So anyway, that's called Pico 8. And it seems like a lot of fun. The games are programmed in Lua, which is a programming language that a lot of kids use for Roblox stuff. And I think it's used for some other things too. So that's my spiel on old game stuff.
So here's my takeaway. The clear blue version of the PS1 Zero Tech controller is my favorite version. I'm over here clicking around while you're showing pictures.
Yeah, I noticed they had different version. I know. I looked this up and they had different colors, but they're all PS1. So I don't know.
There's also a Dreamcast.
Is there a USB one, or a way to adapt it to USB?
PS1. I have a. Not in there. I have a PS1 to USB adapter around here somewhere. We used to sell them. We used to sell them at Radio Shack. Like they were a dime a dozen. You could get them anywhere. They're out there. So
you could get that and then use it.
Figure out what the character sends are and reprogram it to do other things.
Yeah, because that was just like a really fun controller. Of course, it's I don't know how it would be if you played it in Mario Kart or something, but tried to play Mario Kart with it. But with that game, which was for RC cars, was pretty cool because you just turn the corners with the tire. So. Yeah,
I'd love to do something like Mario Kart with this. Oh, see.
By the way, Did you hear they have Mario Kart tours of cities in Japan?
That sounds about right.
Like what I mean is they put you in a cart that's sort of like Mario Kart, and you all drive. I don't know how it works exactly. Do they like give you a place to drive, or you all linked up together and you just sit in the cart? But I saw
Right.
something about that this weekend, that there are actual like Mario Kart tours of Tokyo and Osaka and stuff like that, where you're
Interesting.
in a Mario like cart. Um, but but
All right.
anyway,
So
yeah.
the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Saturn version look the same. And then there's a PlayStation 2 version which looks like a radar detector or a blow dryer. Like they totally lost the plot on what they were up to with this thing. It went from looking like an RC car controller to not that at all. They definitely lost the plot on that. So, but I really like this controller, and the fact that there are some of them on eBay for $30 is exciting. You've got me
Yeah,
all interested in
yeah,
this.
it feels good too. I mean, obviously, assuming you get one that's in good condition, like
Mm-hmm.
it if it like it's very tight handling on the wheel, on the little wheel. So um, I think the overall message is like it's easy to emulate. Like I could do a whole episode on how to install RetroPie, which I may have already done one,
I
right?
think we
And
have.
how to get you know, right? And like it's easy to do all of that stuff, but and maybe if you use those with the right controller with an emulator, you can have a good experience. But the controller matters. It
Yeah.
matters a lot, right? Like it's just not the same.
So much so that when the Switch started supporting NES and I think SNES games, they allowed um, subscribers to Nintendo Online to buy a wireless NES and SNES controller because the controller matters. The spacing, the finger placement, all of that. You know, the games are designed with the inputs in mind. And so, can you go get a Logitech controller or plug in your Xbox or, PS5 controller into your into your PC and play a game? Yes. But is that what it was designed for? No. No, it's
It's
not.
just, I mean, it's just not the same. Like a lot of games would be pretty easy to play on a modern controller. I think most Atari 2600 games would probably be decently playable, but it's just not the same feeling as getting the Atari joystick and doing it, right?
Mm-hmm. Or the
Like
wheel.
you could do right. I have a lot of like having seen the wheels that they used for their Pong games.
Mm-hmm.
The Atari 2600 wheels are in paddles are far inferior to the ones that they put on the dedicated Pong game. They
Yeah.
really should have given you a better Pong experience. Uh,
That
you know,
the one that you showed where the two of the four, I know they were all the same, but two of the four looked like something out of Star Wars. They looked kind of R2D2y. Um,
yeah,
those I've interacted with that dial, and yeah, like the
yeah.
spring back is totally different, and yeah, it's very different.
It's I mean it's like I've thought about getting some used ones and actually trying to gut them. And well, first of all, trying to get the actual game so I can play it, but also just like getting a controller and trying to gut it and install USB in it, which is not like I don't know of an adapter to do it, but but it's probably really well. The hard part for me would probably be fitting it all into the casing, but you all that is probably a rotary encoder. So you could probably take the rotary encoder, from there, open up the bottom of it somehow, get inside, replace whatever the electric part is there to solder it to um, to the analog input on something like a Raspberry Pi Pico, and then you could use Circuit Python to turn it into a modern day HID device. Um, but because like that rotary encoder that they're using, the dial that they're using, I haven't seen anything that good anywhere.
Yeah. I'll just, on Amazon, there are about a dozen 9-pin to USB Atari adapters.
But for they're not 9-pin. The ones on the Pong game are not 9-pin. They're a barrel connector.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't even know how you do that, but they're it's also really weird because the Ultra Pong game doesn't have a power supply. It uses like Type D batteries or something for the console. Like, why did they do that?
Just keeping you on your toes there.
Why would you have a game console, not a portable one, since you can't? I mean, you could port it around, but you got to hook it up to a TV, so not a really portable device, right?
Yeah.
And it runs on disposable batteries.
Who knows? There's your subscription service.
What, portable batteries?
Yeah.
No.
It wouldn't have helped Atari necessarily, but there's your subscription service. Having to buy batteries.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, you can get rechargeables, I guess.
But that's a fun tie back to the last topic. All right. Well, that was a ton of fun, Avram. I always love it when you go do these events because you always come back with some photos of some wild stuff. So,
yeah, it's a good time. I'm hoping in a couple weeks there's going to be some kind of retro festival in Philadelphia that I might be going to, that I'm hoping to go to. Although it is not quote unquote a gaming festival per se, so there may be retro other things there too. But anyway, we'll see.
Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing what comes of that. Have you done anything about this for the site, or is this just a personal thing for our audience?
Personal thing for the audience.
Excellent.
We talked about it, but I don't think people in Tom's Harbor necessarily want to see a slideshow of old consoles, but maybe. But if I figure out how to do something really cool with this Pico 8 thing, maybe we'll do something on that. Yeah, we've got a lot of great news though on Tom's Hardware. Do check it out. Reviews of the new AMD CPUs that have come out, and a new tutorial that I put up on how to mount a Linux formatted drive under Windows without buying special software. So, but that is 31 steps, so I didn't want to bore you with it here.
That does sound like a complicated process, but the fact that
It
there
really
is a
is.
process is a good sign.
Yes.
Well, Avram, as always, appreciate it. That was a lot of fun. I always enjoy when you do events because we never know what's going to come of them. And that was a lot of fun. And now I have things that I want. So I guess thanks for that.
I want to see if you got it. I want to see how it turns out.
I'm really interested in that RC car controller. So
yeah.
Well, as always, appreciated, and I look forward to what we talk about next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. Well, Fortnite is back on the iPhone, but not everywhere. In fact, it's only available in the EU. We've known this was coming for a little while. This is the ultimate culmination of a 4-year battle between Epic Games and Apple in particular. Google's been in there too, but way less so. It seemed more that Google was following Apple's lead than they were doing things on their own. So the battle has really been between Epic and Apple. There was a lawsuit here in the United States that Epic mostly lost, except for one case, which led to the ability for developers and publishers to use alternate payment methods in the App Store under certain conditions. It did lead to them trying to charge the same 30% commission on fees on charges that they weren't involved in, but that was a whole different issue. But in the EU, there has been a pretty hard line on big tech. If you've been following, they're threatening X right now. The EU has taken a really hard line on big tech, and Apple in particular. There have been a number of moves that seem Apple specific. The USB-C requirement seemed pretty Apple specific, considering everybody else was already USB-C. But in this case, the digital... Nope, that's ours. I was going to say Digital Millennium. That's not us. What's it called? The Digital Markets Act required a number of things, but the largest, of course, is that third-party app stores are allowed and required to be allowed on mobile platforms, which allowed Epic Games to release the Epic Games Store on iOS, and through the Epic Games Store, Fortnite is back. So, it's been a very strange couple of years on this, but Epic never relented. In the face of loss after loss, they never relented because they knew that eventually they were going to end up in the right place, and the EU ended up being the right place. Now, the question is, and I'm chat, Avram, do we think that this is where it ends, or does something like this spread across the globe and we start seeing other countries and jurisdictions require third-party app stores?
I don't know. I don't see the will of it happening here in the U.S. So, I mean, maybe. I think EU is toughest on this.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot of other jurisdictions to take it up. It's possible that an individual state would take it up, but rather than the federal government. But I don't know, because the state that would be most likely to take it up would be California, probably, and I don't know if California would want to do something that hurts Apple. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Although we've seen other almost Apple-specific regulations come out in other states. So we've talked about them over the last couple of years. There have been some interesting almost Apple-specific things, but there has been talk from legislators on both sides of the aisle who have talked about trying to do something like this here, requiring that Apple and Google offer third-party stores. So it's possible. If
I
there's
guess we're
any
lucky.
if there's any topic that seems to unite both the left and the right, it's an annoyance at big tech.
Right. This is true. This is true. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are annoyed. On the other hand, we haven't seen a mass. We haven't seen any kind of real serious crackdown on AI
True.
abuses yet.
True.
Um, Maybe we will. I don't know. I feel like there's probably a lot of donations going on right now to both sides from the people who have a lot of money invested in in AI companies to not regulate. So
But you've also got like RIA and the MPAA
yeah,
that donate a
yeah,
lot of money too.
right. So also, I mean, we could have covered this week, but I think there was a copyright lawsuit that was allowed to kind of move ahead this
Mm-hmm.
week. So that was, I guess, from my perspective, encouraging
Yeah.
to see that there, because I mean, there's been just more and more and more. I've gotten like bored of talking about it, or just depressed talking about it. All the things where we've seen companies just blatantly admitting that they scanned and scraped stuff without permission.
Yeah.
Nvidia is the latest one where I think they said they took everything from YouTube or whatever. And then Eric
Mm-hmm.
Schmidt from Google, formerly Google CEO, I think has a class where he taught his students or advised them to steal, to basically scrape everything and worry about lawyers later after they become a success. So
That sounds like Schmidt.
right, so there's a lot of encouragement for them to play fast and loose with the intellectual property of others. And I mean, I think when bigger companies start suing each other, then we'll start seeing more regulation or more, I don't know, precedent, right? Like
Yeah.
Nvidia is a huge company worth a lot of money. I don't know if anybody wants to upset them because they all use Nvidia's hardware, but like, Google owns YouTube. Maybe they're not happy about that,
Yeah.
right? Maybe
I thought I saw that there was a lawsuit against Nvidia already since they came out and said that.
I think it was from some creators though, not from YouTube itself. Um,
I think DeviantArt was in the list though.
yeah.
Or maybe
So
they were the one. Maybe they were involved in the lawsuit that went forward. That might be it. Yep, that's what it was. Yeah, DeviantArt is one of the plaintiffs in the other one.
yeah, so there is a class action lawsuit that was filed just the other day, but by YouTube creators, not
Okay.
by Google. If Google were to step forward and say like, "Hey, we own YouTube and we're going to sue you," then I think there would be a lot more, I don't know, weight behind it. Of course, Google's doing the same thing to other people, so you know
True.
but they could say that YouTube is their property, and hey, we didn't give you permission, I mean, there's a lot going on here, right? And then like Reddit, for example, has an agreement with Google, but not with OpenAI, I think. So, what's the value of licensing your content to AI if other people can take it
Mm-hmm. Right.
without a license? So, I don't know. Anyway, I know we got
Then
off
you've
the
then you've got the Google licensing Reddit and Reddit taking advantage of that.
right. Exactly.
It's my
Exactly.
favorite thing that content creators on Reddit, people have been creating whole things to screw up the AI so it starts churning out nonsense answers. Oh,
Yeah. Well,
gotta
that
love
that
Reddit.
kind of shows it shows you the fundamental problem with generative AI, which is that, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they probably could fix this if they wanted to. I don't know, but it treats every source of information as equally valid.
Yeah.
It doesn't distinguish. It doesn't have an idea of reputable and disreputable sources,
Right.
right? Like a person would. It doesn't say, "Oh, this is from a Reddit thread, therefore it's not as it." We shouldn't place a lot of weight on it like we do on this thing from a well-established publication, or
Right.
this thing that was written by an expert, or this academic journal, or something like that. Like things that it just
Right.
it seems like they have no concept of reputation.
It's how you get the Google AI recommending that you put Elmer's glue into macaroni and cheese. But
Right. Right,
Wait.
exactly, because they have no idea that, like, no concept of.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you'd want to fact check, but like, hey, we're going to get this from Reddit versus we're going to get this from someone who's like, from like the Food Network. The Food
Right,
Network
exactly.
would never publish that, right? So, that's what happens when you take indiscriminately.
And interestingly, so that topic of authority is kind of what Apple has used in the past to explain away some of their App Store policies, right? That they don't want to confuse authority. Now, in reality, as Epic has more than exposed throughout this process, it's nonsense. It's a marketing thing. In reality, they just don't want to be challenged. Google exposed it a long time ago when they denied Google Voice on the App Store, and the Merriam-Webster dictionary or something was censored. But in recent time, Epic has really exposed that the whole authority, trust and verify concept really has nothing to do with what's going on here. They just want their 30%.
Yeah, right. They're theoretically saying that it's going to be better, but not. I guess we're very lucky that they didn't have this concept of app stores and walled gardens when Windows came out.
Yeah.
Or else you'd only be able to install off of the Microsoft Store today. They didn't
Right.
have that concept when Mac OS first came out. You'd only be able to install from Apple Store on the desktop today. I guess that because this tradition hadn't been established when desktop computers were created, they can't
Because
get
it
away
wasn't
with it
possible.
on the desktop. Right. They can't get away with it now.
Yeah.
I mean, they could do it, but they feel like they can't get away with it. Remember
wouldn't
Windows
last long.
10s?
Yes.
Remember
Windows 10s.
Right.
Oh.
Right. You could only install things from the App Store, from the Microsoft Store. So.
Yeah. So I think, especially for the EU, personally, I think this is a good development. Removing the not even so much the walled garden, but the arbitrary enforcement of policies, because there are other publishers who have gotten away with more than Epic was stepped on for. I think, and nobody has to use it, right? That's the nice thing. Nobody has to install the Epic Games Store. If you want to experience the Apple ecosystem way, you can. But if you want the Epic Game Store or the Xbox Game Pass Store, which I don't think is out yet, but I have heard is coming soon, you can. Apple's been very weird about the way Game Pass works on the iPhone and the iPad, but not in the EU soon, right? So there's definitely benefit here, and it doesn't take anything away from the concept. If you want to be an Apple purist, you can, but you don't have to be. And I like that option. It's the option, the choice that I think is the good kind of middle ground between what Apple really wanted and what Epic really wanted. This made for a good middle ground that opens up new possibilities for developers, for publishers, for app types that Apple would never allow there's all kinds of interesting stuff that's possible here. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this, if it stops at the EU or if we see this start spreading outside. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. In 2018, a group of media owners led by Sony put out a couple of interesting lawsuits, in particular the one against Cox Communications, which is one of the largest cable companies here in the United States. They argued that the company was negligent in not their enforcement so much as their involvement in online piracy. And the primary argument was that after the company received copyright claims, they should have terminated the accounts of the users receiving the complaints. Now, the argument never said that they should terminate the accounts of users convicted of piracy, just the ones accused of. We wrote about this at the time. We talked about it at the time. The thing that's interesting is Cox lost. The argument that they were somehow involved in or complacent in online piracy because they did not terminate every user account for suspected online pirates was accepted. And they got $1 billion penalty for it. Now, an appellate court ended up dismissing the fine, but did not overturn the ruling. And that has created a confusing situation. We all know that ISPs do track your activity online. They generally know what sites you visit, where you're going. What they don't know necessarily is every image that was downloaded from a website, right? They don't know the file names or the URLs of every PNG, every logo on our website for partners, and they don't necessarily care about that. That's not what they're up to. They're trying to collect metadata on your activities. They can sell it as advertising data, and whether or not the name of the splash screen for this episode, that doesn't have any bearing on anything. But with this, they would essentially have to be able to validate and verify every copyright notice that comes in to then determine whether or not an account should be terminated, which would require them to store a ton of information, which is crazy. The storage needs would be bananas. Plus, let's say Avram and I shared a house, and I am downloading music from, I don't even entirely know where you would do that to. LimeWire is the first thing that came to mind. It's not that. Almost certainly it's a torrent. So let's go with, I'm downloading music and movies from a torrent site, and Avram's not. But we share an internet connection. All of a sudden, Avram's going to lose his internet because I'm being accused of downloading music? The internet's not an optional thing today, right? We've talked about that a lot over the years. The internet's not an optional thing in society. So, what? There's all kinds of problems here. And not the least of which is there is a U.S. law that was put in place almost specifically to protect AT&T, but that AT&T wasn't liable if you made a long-distance phone call and planned a bank robbery. That wasn't AT&T's fault. While that kind of stuff has been weirdly applied to other platforms, and we've had all kinds of conversations about misapplication of those laws, this sounds like the exact same thing to me, Avram. That Cox is just providing the pipes. They're not involved in this any more than AT&T is involved in me making a phone call and planning a bank robbery. You're not making any noise.
Oops, sorry. So yeah, I agree. I agree that they shouldn't have to do that. They shouldn't have to do that. I mean, it creates a burden on the ISP, and then of course you're guilty until proven innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And consider this problem too, right? If you're you may live somewhere where there's only one ISP. So if your ISP decides that you are a potential copyright violator and to ban you from having an account, that means you can't get online, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And like we said, it's not an optional thing today. Many of us work from home.
Yeah, I mean, that's like being without electricity.
Exactly. And while not illegal, like it is in many jurisdictions, to live in a facility that doesn't have electricity, I mean, it's pretty close.
Right. I mean, there's a lot that you can't do without internet. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really serious problem. And then, I don't know, for example, if they were to follow this, what if somebody tries to do something wants to get at you personally? So they do something to try and file a complaint against you, mm-hmm. so that you will get, lose your internet.
And that's not a new thing. We talked about the Nikola autonomous trucks 2 years ago, maybe, that it turned out that the video was just recorded on a hill and that the trucks didn't actually work. And anybody who talked about it or used the video were getting copyright strikes on YouTube. It would be far from the first time that a DMCA copyright claim was made falsely. We've gotten them.
Right. Or falsely and maliciously, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it happens all the time.
So yes, you could get somebody cut off of their internet by, because who's to say that, like, are they going to believe? But if they follow this precedent, then they should believe everybody who files a complaint, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's Sony, which is a big company, and you hope doesn't just make false claims against people, but they could. Mm-hmm. But, maybe it's somebody else. Maybe I say, oh, I'm a little video game developer, and they downloaded my video game illegally. Cox, I want you to ban this person.
Yep.
Right? How much effort is the ISP going to go through to protect their customer? If they're being held liable, then the best thing for them is to cut their loss and to cut the customer, right?
Yep.
Put the burden on the customer to maybe prove that they didn't do it or whatever it is. So, that's not good, right? Like you don't want that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Right.
And as the ISP, you don't want that kind of heat coming at you, for sure.
Right.
It's just an all-around terrible idea and terrible situation that hopefully, so the reason we're talking about this now, that was 2018. We've been through the appeals process. They've gotten the $1 billion penalty overturned. Now they want the Supreme Court to take it up because they believe, I think rightly so, that there are laws that are protecting them against this in particular, and that they should be upheld. And I totally agree. I think this is a dangerous situation and a terrible precedent to set. And I suspect that if the Supreme Court agrees to hear it, which I think they will, there's almost no way it stands. This seems like the kind of thing that gets stepped on, because this is crazy. And there have been a number of things in this arena, not quite this, but in this arena, that have come back 9-0 with this current Supreme Court, protecting consumers against all kinds of stuff. And we've seen them come back 9-0. Actually, for as much as the news talks about the divided court, there have been a lot of 9-0 consumer-facing rulings from the current Supreme Court. So I suspect we'll see something similar. It may not be 9-0, it might be 8-1. But I don't think this withstands the current Supreme Court, which is a good thing. Their job is to protect people, and I think this ruling does not. I think this is dangerous. Because like you said, single ISP, you're banned because somebody maliciously makes a false claim, and then all of a sudden, what do? You got to go to Starlink, or what's the other one?
Maybe T-Mobile home internet if you have it in the area.
If you have it. Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden now you have these really secondary choices, and that's it. And God forbid a situation arises where they're forced to start talking to each other,
Right.
It's a bad starting point.
Yes.
And guilty until proven innocent is not the way this is supposed to work. So hopefully the Supreme Court will take this case and get rid of this, because this is not good for anybody. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. Speaking of old legal cases, let's go back twice as far as the case against Cox Communications, and let's talk about Megaupload. I imagine there are people who, over the last 12 years, have forgotten about Megaupload. It was a file-sharing site that theoretically could have been normal, but it was intended not to be, right down to the fact that the founder of the site had changed his name to Kim Dotcom, because why not? The site was used almost exclusively for uploading illegal content, a variety of illegal content, let your minds wander, and 12 years ago, the site was shut down with extreme prejudice, and arrest warrants were issued for Kim Dotcom and his little inner circle everywhere. It so happened that he lived in New Zealand, and so was arrested in New Zealand, and all of the proceedings started there 12 years ago. The New Zealand legal system is such that he has fought and been able to fight extradition for more than a decade to a variety of other countries. To the best of my knowledge, most of the EU and the UK have arrest warrants active, but the extradition that looks like it's finally going to work is here to the US. After 12 years of appeals, what's his title? The Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith has signed an extradition order for Kim Dotcom to the United States to face trial. Similar trials to what he has faced in New Zealand already over, actually, as opposed to Cox Communications, who was not complicit in copyright and content violation. Kim Dotcom knowingly was not just complicit, but actively involved in online piracy during the existence of Megaupload. He knew what was going on the site, and not only didn't stop it, but basically encouraged it for a number of years. So kind of the opposite side of what we just talked about with what was happening with Cox Communications. They provided the pipes. It's not like this is different than, say, a torrent, where the overall torrent ecosystem doesn't necessarily know or care what content is. This team knew what all the content was. They weren't responding to takedown orders or anything like that. They're a whole big mess. So Kim Dotcom in particular, I think, is going to face some time because everybody is after this guy.
Yeah, where does he get the money to fight the extradition?
It's a fair question. From what I remember, and again, this is a very old story. This is from the beginning of the show. You may not have even started the Piltch point with us when all of this started. If I remember, somehow Megaupload was mega funded. And I don't remember how, and I would imagine that the funders are somehow also involved in wanting to see him pay. But if I remember correctly, this was like wickedly funded. Possibly through big advertising deals or something, but I know that this was incredibly lucrative. So it's got to be from that.
I mean, he still has money left over after
A
the place
decade?
has been shut down for 12 years.
I guess. Because
Like I just
apparently his appeals aren't even exhausted, and there's a possibility he might still be able to delay this. There's no way he stops it. And I think the whole time he knew there was no way he stopped the extradition. I think the goal was just to delay it as long as possible because New Zealand was going pretty soft on him, but I don't think the US is going to.
yeah. I mean, it's just interesting to me where he could have gotten all this money. But I mean, what has he been doing to make money since then? Is he just an investor? Or I mean, it's just very it's very the whole thing is very odd. Uh,
So much of it is odd, Avram, because this dude has an active X profile, and 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, he did an interview with Alex Jones.
right.
I
So
what? So
uh,
yeah, what's
the
going
whole
on?
it's very odd to me. It's the whole thing's odd to me. Obviously, he was doing some shady stuff. May still be doing some shady stuff. I don't know. Uh, and you know, yeah. So according to Wikipedia, he also has invested millions of dollars into things, or millions of pounds, or millions of euros, or something Like, so he obviously has a lot of money.
Yeah.
From where, I don't know.
And is he, I guess, not actually in any kind of trouble in New Zealand? Is he just like walking around? Because he tweeted 3 days ago, "I love New Zealand, I'm not leaving," with a kissy face emoji, which kissy face emoji from a grown man on X is a little weird, but but the whole thing's weird.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is very odd. He apparently funded a political party over there called the Internet Party.
Sure.
So, I don't know. The whole thing is just, it makes no sense. I don't understand. I guess he's got a lot more money than we know about or whatever, but
or can
I
understand.
Guess his time has come. I guess his time has come. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole thing is weird. He was viewed at one point as some sort of a internet savior, like a free internet, open internet savior, and then no, that turned out to be a facade. But for some people, that seems to have never gone away. And then now, I don't know, I'm scrolling his X profile right now, and it is back and forth bonkers. So maybe he's found a new home in online conspiracy theory communities. I don't know. The dude is weird, and I don't think he avoids this extradition. I think he ends up here and not that far off. I think he ends up here probably pretty soon to stand trial for a number of things. It will be interesting. This is one of the few topics that in the early days of the show happened and we are still talking about now because the Oracle Google lawsuit ended in the Supreme Court. So that one was around from the beginning. So other than net neutrality, like, this is the only kind of other topic that we've been talking about since the beginning of this show. And the fact that we're still doing it and that we still don't know how this is going to end is wild to me. We will continue to follow it because it's definitely weird. So, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate it. If you didn't join us live tonight and would like to in the future, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio during the show. Give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you can't join us live, that's okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. We are working on showing up in some new places. Currently, the audio show is available on Spotify. The video show is also coming to Spotify very soon, including much of our backlog. It's just a real pain in the butt to do, but we're working on that right now. That'll be pretty cool. So if you have been listening to us on Spotify and would like to start watching, you can very soon. Obviously, there are tons of other places: YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, LinkedIn, and basically anywhere you want us to be, we probably are. And if we're not, send us a message. Let us know. contact@PLUGHITZ.com, or get us on social media @PLUGHITZLive, and we will do what we can. We'll see if we can join you on any platform that you're on. And we've got a lot of new content coming as well. Starting in the next couple weeks, all new content that is video will start showing up as video on Spotify. So just keep an eye out for that if you're interested. And I think with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you back next time. Ciao.